Time to round up a big topic from the week. More than 4 million U.S. workers will become newly eligible for overtime pay under rules to be issued by the Obama administration. Salaried workers usually put in extra time but don't get paid anything extra. As a matter of fact, some workers classified as managers work long hours but aren't making much more than the people they supervise. Starting December 1st, any salaried worker making less than $47,000 a year will automatically qualify for overtime if they work more than 40 hours a week. The ruling could affect as many as 12 million workers. However, some are arguing that this will hurt businesses and perhaps cause them to cut jobs. So the new overtime rule, that's our topic this half hour. We want to hear from you. Weigh in on our Fox 26 Facebook page or send a tweet on Twitter. Use the hashtag Fox26forlife. Joining us live in the newsroom is our panel led by our senior legal analyst, Chris Tridico. We have the former chairman of the Harris County Republican Party, Jared Woodfill, and former mayoral candidate and attorney, Chris Bell. Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
So a lot of different opinions on this. Some people say, hey, it's about time. Others say this isn't going to benefit me.
Well, a lot of different opinions is an understatement. The president put this out in 2014 for the Department of Labor. In 2015, they put the rulemaking out, Sally, and since then they have received more than 270,000 comments on this new rule that will now take effect on May 18, 2016. As Sally said, it will affect almost 12 million workers, expanding overtime to people 4.2 million people that have never received overtime before, expanding it for up to 12 million people. Some people say, Jared Woodfill, that's going to be bad for the economy. There's 12 million people that say it's good for my economy.
Well, actually, the question is for those 12 million people, is it good or is it bad for their economy? The reality is when employers look at this situation, they have to make a decision. Do they take a salaried employee and turn them into an hourly employee? Do they cut back on the number of employees that they can actually employ overall because they're having to pay overtime? And that's a tough call to make for an employer. The bottom line is that employer has to make money to stay in business. Or the third option is the cost just gets passed on to the consumer and we actually pay more money. So I don't think it's necessarily a good thing. I think employers need the freedom to determine whether or not these individuals should qualify as executives or administrators under the Overtime Pay Act.
What about that? I mean,
a Republican not wanting people to have more money. That's just
of our money.
But
who knew?
What was striking to me about reading the stories is that how many people have been trying to game the system and how many employers have been trying to game the system and calling people supervisors who aren't really supervisors so they wouldn't have to pay the overtime so they would be exempt. So I think given what we see in the disparity in income in the United States, that this is a very good thing and a step in the right direction.
It's a four-part test to determine if you're a true salaried employee. But you can play, as Chris is talking about, play a game with those any of those four parts to try and get around that salary.
Well, but ultimately it goes back to the employer is still going to be in control. The employer is going to determine whether or not they want to hire you, whether they want you to be salaried or hourly, or whether or not they just need to pass the price on to the consumer. So the employer is still in control.
The odd thing is, though, the floor here is $23,400
now.
Yeah,
presently.
that's not a lot of money where you're not making overtime.
Right, and so I think it'll force the hand of some employers, and that's why some people said this is a really big thing because of the way they've structured it. The employers are going to have to decide, are they going to move folks up and make them real supervisors or keep trying to play this little game?
Let me go to Sally. She's monitoring our social media. Maybe.
Okay, there I am. Yeah. Hey, let's take a look at Twitter. I was so immersed in it. Okay, this guy says, I worked countless hours of overtime every single week, often doing 80 to 90, never saw an extra dime. He adds, my last job was salaried. I was completely taken advantage of for 6 years when it came to overtime. Happy that this new law could fix that. And then at Bliss Tabitha says, the president's new overtime labor law is a punishment to businesses who chose out of Obamacare. And this person says some workers will see their base pay lowered to get around the new overtime law. Not everyone will benefit, and he is shaking his head.
Well, first, a punishment because of Obamacare No.
Well, everything has grown out of Obamacare.
That's exactly right.
Isn't it true? Everything bad has grown out of Obamacare.
That's exactly right. It has nothing to do with that. You'll even agree with
Including
that.
a lot of campaigns.
Exactly right. But I want to talk about that first tweet that he was talking about, working 60, 70 hours a week and not getting overtime. That's precisely what the president was talking about when he said, let's modify these rules.
Well, in a typical situation, I guess it would depend on what your job is. I mean, if you're a lawyer and you're being paid $47,000 a year or over $47,000 now, you're now entitled to overtime.
You can get $47,000 being a lawyer?
Well, I think you've made that's a day or two of your work, but you know, you can.
With good marketing.
From what I understand. From what I understand. But the reality is it had always been based upon the classification of your type of job and what you did. Now that's all turned based on, you know, what is your base pay. So, you know, like I said, employers will ultimately determine whether or not and how you will be compensated and see if they can make money off it.
What the president is attacking here is bringing someone in, saying you're now a supervisor, paying them $24,000 a year, working
not paying overtime.
70 hours a week, defining every aspect of their job and not getting them overtime.
Right, and that's exactly what it's designed to address, and that's why it's a good thing in my way of thinking.
Is it going to affect the economy at the end of the day when you add 12 million people that are making time and a half now?
Well, they always say these things are going to have a huge impact on the economy, and I don't think so. I don't think so at all. I think it'll be an overall positive.
All right, we'll leave it right there. We'll be back in about 15, 20 minutes with another really good topic.